Can I just tell you guys, this episode today is a long time coming. Every single woman that goes through period recovery, at least in my Recipe for a Period coaching program, is always asking about buying new clothes or getting clothes that feel comfortable on their body or how they should go about shopping. And of course, the scariness of wearing less clothes when we are going to a special event or potentially when summer comes around. So today, I am speaking with Nicole, who goes into everything about getting new clothes, feeling more comfortable in your clothes, from tips to shopping, to setting intentions, to connecting with your inner child in order to make this a more embodied practice. And this is something, getting new clothes, not to say that they always have to be bought new, but having clothes feel comfortable on your body is an essential part of not only recovery, but being a human. So I cannot wait to dive in and chat with Nicole. Let's go ahead and welcome her to the podcast. Hi, Nicole. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited you're here because this is a long time coming, for not just for me and you to get together, because I know we had some scheduling things going on, but like I've always wanted to have someone come on my podcast and just talk all things about clothes and like just fitting your new body, or, and I don't want to say new body, but your changing body in the recovery journey of just women's health, because this is not an area that's really talked about. It's just kind of like, okay, buy new clothes and like move on with your life. And that they'll feel more comfortable and you'll be happy if you buy new clothes, but it's definitely easier said than done. So I wanted, before we kind of get started into talking about fitting our amazing bodies, how did you kind of get into this area of focus for women?
Yeah, so fashion's always been a huge part of my life since I was genuinely like a baby. I was up clothes, wearing my mom's clothes, and I was obsessed with fashion magazines and all of these things. It was such a big focus in my life, and I just kind of knew from then on, like, I wanted to pursue fashion in a professional sense. And as in high school, was like pursuing this fashion career, like going on to like study fashion. I was prepping for that. I was diagnosed with PCOS and my body changed pretty drastically, as it does with a lot of women who have PCOS. And I found that the thing that I loved the most, which was fashion, became this thing that I actually really despised and really felt like I wanted to avoid because I was so uncomfortable in my changing body. And I was still pursuing fashion throughout, college and things, even though I was feeling really like disembodied, not confident in myself. And I kind of like had this like sort of like come to Jesus sort of moment. Actually, our mutual connection, Katie Cordina, who's amazing,
Yeah.
she introduced me to intuitive eating. And
Right.
I kind of decided that I wanted to adopt that and not listen to, what doctors tend to prescribe when it comes to PCOS, which is like the pill and dieting. That was really not aligned with me. It didn't make me feel good at all. And I really wasn't even healthy as I was pursuing that. So I decided to kind of quote unquote treat my PCOS on my own by focusing on intuitive eating, focusing on the movement that felt good for me, focusing on, just not being as stressed and not constantly chasing this version of my body that never really existed. And throughout this process, I also, like, I don't even know, like, the exact moment, but I just decided that I was gonna start to get dressed for myself rather than getting dressed to, look a certain way or to hide my body or to appeal to the male gaze. Like, there are so many different reasons why we get dressed a certain way, but I kind of made this conscious decision that I was just gonna start to get dressed for me because fashion is, like, my first love. It's the thing that I care about the most in my life, and as soon as I made that shift, I was able to use fashion as almost a conduit for living the life that I actually wanted to live because it made me feel confident and in my body and made me feel excited for my day. It helped me to, like, live out my values in life, and as I was working a corporate job, I was just kind of unhappy, as many people in the corporate world are. And I had a lot of experiences of, you know, personally like having issues with my body image and all of these things, but I had a lot of friends who were going through eating disorders and really intense disordered eating patterns, and I would help them get dressed. And I was kind of just like thinking back on all these times that I would basically be styling people,
Mm.
like regular people in my life. And I was like, you know what? Like, I think that I need to bring this to people in a more serious way, and especially the disordered eating community, because, when you recover into a different version of your body. And also, you're kind of like a different person when you recover. And it's really hard to get dressed when you're just like pushed back out into the world in recovery. And I like to help people bridge that gap. So it's a long winded way of answering your question, but that's kind
Yes.
of how I got to
No.
this profession.
No, and that's so beautiful, Nicole, because like you took something that you were so passionate about and you kind of fell off of it, like because it just wasn't feeling like you said you weren't feeling embodied with it, all because your body was changing. And so your love of for you it was fashion, and I just think about so many women have these loves, but then when our their bodies start to change, there could be a disconnection there, or a disembodiment, and that you found your way back to your love, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was kind of inevitable, but the path there was kind of like all over the place and zigzaggy. And I think that I feel like there's a lot of parallels between food and fashion. They're both things that we interact with every single day, and they're both things that are like a lifelong relationship, and it takes time to figure out like what works for you. And then sometimes when you do figure out what's going to work for you, it only works for a certain amount of time. So it's really just like a
There's
bit
different
daunting.
seasons. Yeah.
Exactly. It's so daunting for people because they're like, "Oh, I just want, like, the quick fix. Like, I wanna figure out what the formula is and, like, that's it." And that's just not really how it works for food, for fashion, for body image. These are all really ever evolving things, and there's no one size fits all way to approach it. So, again, that's why I love to help people, because it can be really overwhelming, especially for folks who are not really, like, super into fashion. Because I often forget, like, as someone who loves it, like, not everyone is like me. Not everyone's in the fashion industry, and when it's not something that you necessarily, like, care about or think about, it's so hard to make it a part of your life that feels, like, really good and integrated and easeful.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I definitely feel like that could be a good area of discussion here. And I think of myself, I'm like, not that I'm struggling with body image right now, but fashion is, I wish I want it to be more of my thing than it is, but I think it's a time factor. So I don't know if we can talk about time as well. Not just for me, but most of us live a very go, 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 do life. So I'd love to talk more about that. And I just want to say, just circling back to like, there's no one size fits all. And it's also just like food and bodies, like fashion doesn't stay like the same. Like you don't just stay the same throughout the year. Most of us live in places where the weather changes, right? And colder versus warmer. But there you go, right? And so that's going to also align with our food. How we eat sometimes is going to be different. But I think given my background of a very type A, had very disordered eating before, like I thought you just eat the same and you just are the same like January 1st through December 31st and there's no changing. But changing feels really out of control and it feels scary. So yeah, so talking to the woman who is like, and maybe she is a fashionista, maybe she's not, but I think would you say, Nicole, most of us are, I don't know if you could do any stats on this, but would you say it's a 50? Some people are really into it, some people aren't.
Um, I guess I would say 50-50. I think the interesting thing is that we have this, like, preconceived idea of what fashionable means, and
Mm,
I'm also kind of trying to dismantle that, because I think that it makes you feel like you're a failure if you're not fashionable. And fashion can
yeah.
mean whatever you want it to mean for yourself. And I also don't really necessarily prescribe to trends. I think they're a great like jumping off point. And I think fashion in general, like the rules that we have around fashion that, we're taught, like the dressing for your body type, or like mixing particular colors and particular patterns, they're all like good guidelines, but they're not something that you need to live by. I think that the more comfortable you feel with the idea of getting dressed, the more experimental you can be, but until you get to that place, like, you're gonna kind of maybe put yourself in a box, but I want you to take yourself out of the box of I'm fashionable and I'm not. It's just not really like a helpful identifier.
Yes, it definitely sets the wrong energy, right? Like, I am not fashionable. And you know what? I'm going to say that for myself, Nicole. I'm going to say I'm either neutral about it or I am fashionable. I think for me, it's a time thing and that I'm struggling with, setting time out to buy clothes. And again, not body image, but we can talk personally after. I want to talk to the woman who, let's just say we'll just use a avatar of the typical woman who is trying to get her period back. She's probably going to gain weight in some capacity. Her body's going to change. We'll just say that. I'm going to take weight out of the factor. Let's just talk about a changing body. And so, okay, our body starts to change. Our clothes that usually had fit us for some time now are no longer fitting us. So where do we even start?
Yeah, well, first off, I wanna just name the fact that, like, our bodies are gonna be constantly changing throughout our lives, and it's just something that we need to try to become comfortable with or at least neutral with because even, like, as you age, like, your body is going to have
Yes.
some sort of different composition. So, the more you can get, like, I guess, comfortable with that idea, the better off you'll be throughout the whole process. So, I just wanted to start with that. The
Thank you.
second thing is that I think that clearing out your closet is a really powerful first step because when you open your closet or your drawers or however you store your clothes, we'll just say closet for all intents and purposes. When you open your closet every single morning and you start your day off looking at that and thinking to yourself, "Oh my god, I my body's changed. I have nothing to wear. What am I going to do?" Like the stress sets in. Like that's not a good way to start your day. So, I love to recommend doing a closet clearing, which I kind of coined myself because I think it's like a very energetic thing to clear out your closet. I think that clothes really hold a lot of energy, especially when they're clothes that maybe you wore in a time that you were participating in a lot of disordered eating, or maybe you were in a relationship that wasn't aligned, or a job that wasn't aligned, or living somewhere that didn't feel right. Like the clothes hold these energies. So when you start to clear out your closet, you're creating space for some new things. And obviously, I don't recommend like a complete overhaul of your closet when your body's changing because again, your body does change a lot. So replace the things that are pivotal in your day-to-day life. So like what are your outfit uniforms that you know you can rely on? And this is something that I help develop with clients. Like what are the different combinations of like 4 or 5 outfits that you know you can use in your day-to-day life? And if you have all of these things ready to go, even if you're not creating an outfit that feels like groundbreaking or trendy or like super crazy, you'll still feel like baseline good in your body because you know that you're putting on things that make you feel comfortable. And then from there, I think we can kind of develop the style. We can tune into our values and get spiritual with it and do all of these different tools that I like to teach my clients. But to start, it's really just creating a space that feels safer and having some of these key items that you know you can rely on day after day.
And thank you for sharing that. And would you say when you do that clearing out of the closet, would you say, all right, get rid of these clothes, put them in a bin, donate them? What? And maybe it's different for everybody.
Honestly, it's usually kind of the same. So I recommend it's like you have 3 piles. So the first one is the things that you're keeping, of course. And, when you do clear out your closet, put them back in a way that feels very organized because, again, when you're looking at it every day, it just will make you feel less stressed and more calm when you're looking at a clean, organized closet. So we have our keeps. Then we have our get rid of. The things that we get rid of are, of course, the things that are not really fitting us. They're probably like quite a few sizes smaller or larger than you are in this current moment. They're things that you're probably never going to wear again because there's like a stain or there's a hole. There's like a lot of things that people hold on to just in case. And then I think where it gets a little gray is the maybe pile. And for that, it's like, okay, what are the things that are like 1 to 2 sizes off from where you are right now that maybe you'll fit into? You might. It's possible. But we're not putting them back in your closet. We're gonna put them in a bin or an extra suitcase and put them somewhere where you're not looking at it every single day because, again, we wanna get rid of these reminders that your clothes aren't fitting you right now.
Yeah.
We don't want to be confronted with that every single day. We want to focus on the clothes that do fit. We want to focus on feeling good in our body as it is right this very second. We don't want to be worrying about like, oh, what if tomorrow it fits? What if like a
Past
year
or the
from now it
future.
fits? We don't really want to focus on that. So put it in a place where you're not seeing it. And if in like 3 to 6 months to a year, you don't think about these things again, get rid of those too. Sometimes it takes like some phases of clearing out the closet because it can, again, like the clothes hold energy, it can be quite emotional. You are shedding a different version of yourself. So how can you make it feel like you're not just doing a complete like overhaul in one day that feels really scary? How can we phase it out?
Yeah, and speaking of, how do we make it less scary? Like, do we light candles, play music? Like, what are some kind of tips or your go-tos for your client to make it less heavy?
Yeah, I actually love to help people ritualize getting dressed, and depending on, like, how spiritual you are, you can make it, like, a very, like, witchy spiritual practice, but it could also literally just be, like, lighting a candle. I light a candle every morning personally and play, like, relaxing music, and just those 2 things while I'm getting ready for the day, getting dressed, makes me feel so much more calm. I also recommend some people do, like, a little bit of breath work or meditation and, like, really think about, like, okay, what does my day look like in terms of my calendar? And then how do I want to feel as I move through my day? Because the more you focus on like the intention behind getting dressed, which maybe is to like do well at your job or to facilitate really deep relationships at work or in your personal life or to like counsel people and to be a safe space for people. Like the things that you put on can help you facilitate all these different things. So if you give yourself a moment to meditate or breathe on those intentions before you get dressed, you're gonna feel that much more confident and ready to go for your day. I also have one client who loves to blast music and dance before she gets dressed,
Yeah.
and it just helps her to feel really, like, embodied and excited for the day, and it's funny, she's, like, an accountant, like, a very, like, rigid sort of job, but she, like, starts her day off with this, like, self-care moment that feels so freeing, and I just love thinking about her every morning and her doing that before, her work day, and I think that she probably brings a bit more of that energy to work than she otherwise would have if she didn't do that little ritual.
Absolutely. So it's like not only is it helping you get dressed, but it's helping you start your day off on the right foot, doing all those things. I know that's an important practice for me as some breathing, maybe some journaling. And my kids, I used to play so much music when they were younger. And now they're like, Nicole, they're like, turn off the music. I don't want to hear music. And I'm like, but I like to dance. So sometimes I'll turn on the music or I'll put my ear pods in. So, but yeah, just making it more of a safe space for your nervous system. I know for me, just speaking like, again, body image aside, but when I have something on that I feel good in, my energy is completely different.
Yeah, 100%. And when you are comfortable and confident, you can be so present in whatever situation you're in. The worst feeling is wearing an outfit that you don't feel comfortable in for whatever reason and just fidgeting the whole time and thinking the whole time, I can't wait to go home and rip this outfit off. That's not going to help you facilitate good relationships or any other sort of things that you're pursuing in your life. That's just going to make you feel really disembodied. And that's the thing that we don't want. We want you to feel embodied. We want you to feel present. We want you to feel confident, and the clothes can be a way to do that. And again, to go back to what I was saying before, it doesn't have to be something that's like super fashionable. It could just be like what feels comfortable and makes you feel confident. It's really such a personal thing. Like maybe you feel most confident in your sweats, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Maybe someone feels most confident in their heels. That's also fine. Both are great. It just depends
Hmm.
on what works best for you. That's why it's personal style, you know? It's all
Yeah.
so personal.
Very individualized. Yeah. I know for me, Nicole, I feel most comfortable in leggings or tights. I had this podcast recording in New York City. It was my first in person podcast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, well, I got to get a new outfit, of course. And so I went to, I think, the Loft. There's like no shopping where I live, like, there's no good stores. So if I want anything, I have to do it online, but I was out of time. So I went to the Loft. And I picked out a couple cute things, and then I had to go to Dick's Sporting Goods for something, I can't remember, but I wasn't intending on buying anything there, but I end up walking out with a new pair of sneakers and a new pair of tights and a new tank top, and I'm like, "Huh." I'm like, "Who am I?" Like, am I the girl that gets, like, business casual dressy, or am I the girl that, like, loves to live in leggings? yeah, so I decided after these 2 cute outfits I was gonna decide from at the loft, I decided to go with my tried and true leggings, and I felt comfortable and I felt confident, and I ended up having to get a new outfit because I got really sweaty, it was a really hot day. But yeah, so I changed that last minute. I'm like, who am I and what do I feel most comfortable in? But going back to that, so say if like, okay, well, now I had this tried and true, outfit or way of, dressing, but now my body is changing and now I have to go shopping. So what happens at the shopping stage?
Yeah, I mean, shopping can be really difficult for so many reasons, and the main reason is that sizing is really difficult to navigate. No matter what size you are, it's difficult to navigate because even within a single brand, the same item in a different color can fit you completely differently. So I think if you can kind of take yourself out of it and be like, okay, like the reason that clothes like don't fit well or the reason that it's really hard to find your size isn't because of me, it's because of the way that clothes are made. How can we, like, separate you from that? Because I think we put a lot of stake in, like, what size we are, and really that just doesn't matter. And actually, I love to use size as, like, almost like a particular way to style things. Like, I'll buy things that are a size bigger or 2 sizes bigger because I want to style them a certain way. So how can you actually, again, like, continue to take the meaning out of the size and use it to your advantage? How can you use it to style outfits and be comfortable in your clothes? But in terms of shopping, I would say that it's really important to figure out, like, the way that you thrive the most while shopping. Like, maybe you do like to go in person and shop, but maybe you don't. Maybe you're more of a person who likes to shop online, and actually, I personally prefer to shop online because I'm in my own space. I can curate the music and the thermostat and the lighting. And also, I can see my whole closet and I can actually see how the things that I'm buying could potentially fit in with my existing wardrobe. Whereas when you're in the store, you're like, oh God, like, do I have something that will work with these pants? I don't know. Let me bring it home and see. So it adds another layer. But if you do like shopping in person, then I think that that's a really great way to go about it as well. It's just a matter of figuring out how best to do that. And I have like a whole strategy for like how to create a good shopping experience. And usually it involves like bookending your day with things that make you feel really good and confident in yourself, going with someone that you really trust and who can actually like grab you extra sizes, who could be there for emotional support, who could be there for fun and to have a cheerleader and to have someone with an opinion. Also, like, getting a little bit ready for the day when you're going shopping is good because, when you have, like, your messy bun greasy hair and you're trying on, like, I don't know, dresses for a wedding, like, that's not gonna help you to decide what you want because you're not going into it not feeling like your best. So how can you set yourself up for success? Also, eating before you shop is really important because you don't want to be low blood sugar, stressed, hangry. You're not gonna find anything in that kind of state. So those are just some things to keep in mind in terms
Yeah,
of
but
shopping.
I wanna add one in there, also empty your bladder.
Yes,
I don't know
yes.
how many times I go into the store. 'Cause I don't usually have time to shop in stores, but if I have to go into a store, I find myself always having to go to the bathroom, and then, like, I have this, like, frantic, I gotta pee energy, and
Yeah.
that does not go as well as that hangry energy, because if your nervous system is off in any kind of decision-making process, especially something that's, like, really to me, fitting clothes to your body is pretty important. I think it's a really, really important thing. And so we don't, and it could be a very sensitive thing, it could be a very emotional thing. So we want our baseline kind of nervous system to be like in that maybe rest and digest state and not in that
Uh-huh.
fight or flight state, right? So that's super important. But I love those tips so far, Nicole. So okay, with potentially, depending when this podcast comes out, summer could be, well, summer is inevitable.
Yeah.
Unless you're living in Antarctica, weather is going to get warmer, clothing is going to become less, right? So, and I don't know if that's the best way of saying less, but like you're not going to be wearing winter coats and boots and maybe like heavy things, right? So, what kind of advice would you offer to, and maybe it's not even summertime, it's just like having less clothing on our body. Maybe it's a wedding, maybe it's shorts, maybe it's a swimsuit and so forth. Any words of advice or encouragement on that department?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of different things are coming up. The first thing is especially like when I think about bathing suits a lot when I think about summer, and buying them ahead of time, like before the weather's actually warm is really helpful because I feel like they usually like sell out really quickly, but also then you don't have to rush to find them once it's hot. It's like, oh no, I have a beach vacation this weekend and I have no bathing suits. And then again, you're entering the shopping experience already stressed. So
Just
if you
regular.
can start to prepare for warmer weather ahead of time, I would highly recommend. I also talk about that when it comes to like going to a special event, like a wedding, like go shopping for the wedding guest dress like months early so that you aren't rushed. But anyway, that's one thing. I think that, in the warmer weather in the summertime, it's really important to spend extra time taking good care of yourself and nurturing your body image. And there's so many ways to do that depending on like what you like to do. One thing that I like to think about a lot in the summertime is my inner child. I like to think about her, like, I love the beach. So I would like to think about her, like, going to the beach and swimming and playing in the sand and how she didn't worry what her body looked like. And I want to embody that same essence when I am at the beach, for example.
I love
And
that.
I know it can be really difficult to be like, no, I'm fine with my body. I'm just going to like think about me as a kid. Like, it's easier said than done, of course. But like, if you can really tap into that, I think that you'll feel so much more positive in that kind of experience, and also just focusing in general on the experience that you wanna have. So, when you're at the beach, you want to relax. You want to see the beautiful scenery. You want to read the book that you've been so excited to read. So how can you, like, do things to focus on those rather than focusing on what does my body look like?
Mm,
Also, everyone is kind of, like, half naked at the beach anyway. Like everyone's in a very similar situation to you. Like you're
yeah.
not the only one who's thinking about your body. And I think like remembering that no matter what someone's body looks like, everyone has challenging body image moments. And I think that it can be really easy to compare and look at someone who maybe is smaller than you and be like, well, they are smaller, like, they don't know how I feel, and maybe that's true, but also they have a lot of hard body image moments too, and I think if we can kind of, like, level the playing ground, it can make you feel a little bit better in your own situation, and I've actually had some experiences where I've spoken to people who are just objectively smaller than me. I'm tall and curvy, like, that's just the way I'm built, but I know people who are very, very small and are some of the most insecure people I've ever met in my life. And so, it's very sad, but I sometimes think about that and I'm like, well, if I can be someone who isn't speaking about my body negatively and who is doing all the things that I want to do regardless of what my body looks like, I'm setting an example for other people to be able to do the same. And I was actually talking to a client earlier today and she was telling me how she has young daughters and she was saying that she's really conscious about how she speaks about herself because she doesn't want them to speak negatively about themselves, and she wants to focus on building her style and rediscovering herself beyond motherhood, like, through style because she wants to be that example. And I think that, like, especially in the summertime, living your life to the fullest and not letting your body image or your style get in the way of experiencing life and being present is such a great way to, like, almost inspire other people without even having to do anything. You're just leading by example, and I think that that's a really powerful thing to think about as well. I feel like I
Wow.
kinda just went a lot of different directions with that,
No, I
but
love all those
I was
directions.
getting a little fired up.
No, especially on that because it's important. It's not just about, okay, go get the bathing suit that fits so you can feel comfortable in it. Like, it's much more of a bigger picture than just getting clothes that fit you. Because it's not like, "Oh, I go out and get new clothes and I'm all ultimately, like, I don't have any more body image thoughts." They don't just, like, completely disappear. It's one kind of, like, drop in the bucket to improve body image, having clothes that feel good on you, that you're confident and you fit in it. But at the end of the day, like, we are here for life. We're here to experience life, to be present, to go to the beach, whether we have kids or not at that particular time. But I think for me as a mom now, like, I have no thoughts when I put on a bathing suit, I move on. I also, I guess you would say maybe thin privilege where I am in a smaller body, but I also was that woman like you were talking about, Nicole. Like, there's women in smaller bodies that are more self-conscious and in their heads about their bodies than maybe a woman that might look like she's in a quote unquote larger body, right? And I was that woman. I was that woman in the smaller body, constantly in my freaking head about it and wondering what are other people going to think of me? Like, oh my gosh, like I feel bloated today. I got to cover up more. Like, what are people going to think of me? No one was looking at me. Everyone else was in their own damn head, about that. So that's one thing. It's like we are worried about what other people think, but yet most people, not all, are already in their own head about what they're experiencing. So I think that's important to know. But two, it's like going back to the experience. If I could tell the younger version of me, well, I tell her a lot, but thinking about the inner child, like you said, like, what do you like to do at the beach? Do you like to splash in the water? Do you like to, I think it was Marco Polo,
Mhm.
like where you close your eyes and you say Marco Polo and try to find someone else. Like, play again, have fun. Like, what would your little girl self like to be doing? Would she like to be rolling in the sand and getting sand everywhere? I know for me, back in my days where I was very fixated on what my body looked like, I wouldn't even want to get sand on my body. And now
Mm.
I'm roll around in the sand with my kids. Of course, I mean, I like to wash off after, but
Yeah.
there's a little difference there. And I think about that inner child, like you said, of what would she like to do? And maybe the teenage self would just want to lie there and read like a really good book and just bake in the sun. Don't forget your sunscreen. But, so thinking about that, I think that's really important. And then going to the experience of it. Like, why are you at the beach today? Because you decided you wanted to put on a bathing suit and not be like cold inside your air condition. Like, you wanted to go to the beach to have fun, enjoy the sun, the friends, whatever it may be. So remember going back to that experience is so so important. And so that was lovely, Nicole, to be able to share those particular things. So, okay, we talked a little bit about, kind of cleaning out the closet, doing the shopping, a little bit about wearing less clothing. Is there anything else you feel like our audience should know about the topic of conversation today?
Something that I've been thinking a lot about, and again, it kind of connects back to the inner child thing, is that I think that we're really afraid of experimenting. And I think that's the fun thing about fashion is that you can take risks, you can try different outfit combinations, different colors, different patterns. And again, we get so caught up in like, what are the rules of fashion? Like, what are the cool girls wearing? I hate that, like social media trend of like, cool girl, whatever, because it just doesn't matter. And I think that the more you can tap into this sense of play and experimentation with your fashion, the more fun and enjoyable it'll be, the more you'll learn about yourself and you'll learn what you like and don't like. I think it is important to try things because mostly you find out what you don't like, and that's totally fine if you don't like certain things. And one way to experiment that I love is actually trying things while you're at home, especially if you have a job where you work from home some of the time. Maybe be a little bit more bold in your fashion choices at home and see if it works, because if it doesn't, you can see like what are the logistics of the outfit that aren't working? Is it like that the pants are falling down, or is it really just that I don't like the color? You can take in like little points of data about the outfits, but you're getting comfortable experimenting and trying new things. I also have a client who one of her goals when working with me was to get comfortable wearing a crop top. And for a while, the thought of wearing a crop top out in public like made her feel so afraid. And that's so fair. But I challenged her to start to wear them at home a little bit more. And the more that she did that, the more comfortable she felt to start to wear them in public. And it's not, your goal doesn't have to be to wear a crop top. It's just an example, but it's kind of like exposure therapy in a
Yeah.
way. Another thing too that I think is really impactful is, especially if you do work from home, getting dressed in some way every single morning. And that doesn't have to be putting on jeans. It just means changing out of your pajamas and making the intentional choice to wear something specific during your day. I think it can really, again, like bringing it back to the ritual. You're creating a ritual for yourself. You're showing yourself that you are worthy of this bit of self care every single day. And if you put on clothes that feel physically comfortable to you, again, you'll feel really like ready for your day and present and focused on what it is you're trying to do in this life, which is, live to the fullest, be successful, all
Yeah.
of these things depending on your values. So yeah, those are just some things that I think are really great to start, especially when you're at home. You can really start like while you're by yourself. It doesn't have to be such an exposing thing at first.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that idea. And I am totally a fan of like I work from home every single day and I get ready every single day. If I like I did that way long time ago, I'm like, I just feel like absolute crap. Yeah. It's a whole different energy when you don't get ready. So that is like non-negotiable for me, a part of my self-care as well. Last thing I want to ask you about, Nicole, is what kind of few bits, tips for maybe women that are kind of like I really don't have the financial means to like just go out and get a whole new wardrobe. What would you offer for them to little things that they could do?
Yeah, I mean, I never really recommend people get a whole new wardrobe. I don't think that that's financially
No,
feasible,
I
and
totally
also
agree.
just
But
like
I think
time
that that's a
wise.
thought that comes in mind. It's like, I gotta buy
Yeah,
all new clothes.
right. Yeah, definitely people feel that pressure, but I would say that thrifting can be really enjoyable, and you kind of have to be in the mindset to be thrifting, but basically you can view it as a treasure hunt, right? Like you're going into the store and you don't know what you're going to find, if you're going to find something really interesting, and maybe you're going to find things that are a little bit of a departure from your current style, but usually when you're thrifting, the prices are pretty cheap if you're at like Salvation Army or Goodwill, things like that. So I think that that's a really fun playground to start with. Also, utilizing Poshmark or other resale sites like Depop, even eBay are really great. Also, rental services are a great way to experiment, and also you're not necessarily having to commit to buying certain things. You can try a bunch of things before you decide if you wanna even buy anything at all. And then, yeah, I think, like, starting with the items that you know are, like, the staples in your wardrobe. Like, for you, like, you love leggings, right? So, like, of course, like, if you're replacing things in your wardrobe, you're gonna wanna focus your finances there on the things that you know that you love and the things that you know that you need versus, like, I don't know, maybe you don't really need a designer bag. Like, maybe that's not the place to start. Like, starting with the things that you know that you need in order to get dressed every single day.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those tips because I think that's a big fear. It's like, okay, my body's changing, and like now I have to buy all new clothes. And so I love that you cleared that up. That it's not just going out and buying a whole new wardrobe and buying tons and tons of clothes. I mean, if you can buy a ton of clothes, like by all means, but also it's not necessary. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, Nicole. So anything else, Nicole, you'd like to leave the audience with? If not, where can these ladies find you if they need support with clothing their body during, after, whenever in their lives?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram and TikTok at styling_confidential, and my website is stylingconfidential.com. I'm very accessible. I love like talking and meeting new people, so feel free to reach out anytime. And yeah, again, I would just urge people to just try getting dressed tomorrow. Like the next time you are going to get dressed or like need to get dressed, just like try to make it an enjoyable experience in whatever way you can and just see how it feels. Just try to experiment with that.
It's amazing, Nicole. And give Nicole a follow on Instagram because I'm sure you are sharing a bunch of really helpful information aside from just being here on the podcast today, which this episode was so needed for so long. And I'm so glad I finally found the right person to come and share with all of you. So, Nicole, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.